Hey, this is Bevan Sadler, and I want to do a quick presentation for you for design of experiments. This is the presentation you need that we didn't quite finish up in lab that you need for quiz 1. Remember, on Monday, 2 quizzes are due, the preliminary quiz and quiz 1. You'll need this information to finish up quiz 1. What else was I going to say? We're going to have these things, we're going to have a slideshow here, so every time I say slide, the slide will advance. So here we go. Remember, randomness was super important. We want our studies to be random, so whatever the inference we find, whatever the result we find, we can apply it back to the population as a whole and not just the sample that it came from. So if we sampled from a population of 1 million people and it was a random sample, if we found some interesting statistical conclusion, we could apply that back to the 1 million people. If we don't have randomness, that result only works for those 100 people that we sampled. So very useful, yet sometimes very difficult or expensive to get a random sample. Slap. Sweet. So for 2 studies that we had were observational studies and experiments. Remember, the observational study simply observes and measures specific characteristics without attempting to change or to modify the subjects being studied. A good example of that slide. One example here is the average age of those who received a promotion versus those who didn't. So as a quick example there, if we looked at, we took a sample of a bunch of people and got their age and then asked them, did you receive a promotion or did you not? Whether they did or not would place them into the groups. We can't take a person and then have them have a promotion or not. We have to go back and look and see what the company did. Did the company give a promotion and we'll have the average age go towards that group? Or did they not receive a promotion, we'll have the average age go towards that group? Another good example would be male versus females. If we wanted to see, again, like we covered in class, the SAT scores of males versus females, we take our random sample. We can't make one of the people that we sampled, we can't say, hey, go to the female group. They're either male or female when they come into the study. So then they have to be routed into the right category. They're just male or female. Then we take their average SAT scores and compare it, which we'll do later in the semester. That might make a little more sense. That's an observational study. Make a little more sense when we look at slide, the experiment. In the experiment, we can actually randomize people into 1 of 2 categories or 3 or more categories. Well, let's just talk about 1 or 2, and those are called treatments. So a good example of this slide is clinical trials of Lipitor or sleep studies. Well, let's talk about the Lipitor study. Lipitor is a drug for cholesterol. And the way that they tested to see, the FDA requires a clinical randomized trial, which only means that they take a sample and then they flip a coin on each subject, or however they want to route them, but each person has the same chance of being selected to the Lipitor or to a placebo group where they don't receive Lipitor. And then at the end, if they show that Lipitor works, they know then that it's because of the Lipitor, not because of some other factor that they didn't control for, because they randomized. If they're left-handed, they have an equal chance of being in the Lipitor group or the placebo group. If they're tall or short, or male or female, or pick any characteristic, there should be a mix in both groups. The only thing that both groups are consistent on is that one group all had Lipitor and the other group all had placebo. So again, if there's a difference at the end, we contribute that as a cause of Lipitor. Same thing with sleep studies. We can randomize people to getting sleep or to getting normal sleep, and then if what we see is if we're measuring, say, test scores again, if their test scores are higher after sleep, then we can attribute that to the sleep and not some other confounding factor. But that's the definition of experiment. Slide. Bang. So, question. We can test one out here. So, assume 23 women are randomly selected, and 45 men are randomly sampled. And the entire sample of 68 subjects are asked to report their salary. So, is this an experiment or observational study? The question you have to ask is: there's 2 groups, men and women. Could people be randomly assigned to each one? And no, if you're selected to be in this sample, you'll either go to the men's group or women's group based on your characteristic. So, slide, answer to this one is observational study. The next one that we all covered in class again, this one was 129 people, and it was a sleep study. And so they were assigned, either randomly assigned, so they flipped a coin, and they were randomly assigned to be sleep deprived, where they didn't get any sleep, or to where they got normal sleep. Then they were asked to perform some test to get their score. But since they were able to be randomly assigned, each person could have ended up in either group. and that's how that they were assigned to those groups. That makes this a slide experiment. So, okay, so moving on, slide. We've got some definitions. Slide. So the first definition is cross-sectional study. Slide, slide. Great, so these are all of them. We went over these in class 2. I think everybody got to these. We got a cross-sectional study, a retrospective study, and a prospective study. Very simple. Cross-sectional is just if I asked you guys right now to tell me if you're left-handed or right-handed. And that's what it is right this second. Of course, people don't really change from left-handed to right-handed, so let me come up with a different example. Let's say, what's your favorite color? So right this second, on January 24th, we would know what your favorite color was. If it changed somewhere down the road, we wouldn't know, because this is a cross-sectional study. It just gives a slice of time. We find out what the information is right now. Now, another way to conduct the study is to do a retrospective study, because as we know, data is expensive. It's expensive to get, it's expensive to clean. So if we got some data that was previously collected, say from 1980 or from the 1700s, some data that was already out there, we can use that data, and that's a retrospective study. The downside of that is we don't have any control over the design of that experiment. We just have to take however they collected it. So if there's errors in that data, or if it was collected in a way that's not as useful to us, if we would have collected it a different way, there's nothing we can do about it. But still, it's cheaper because we already have the data. It's retrospective. The last kind is a prospective study. A lot of clinical trials are conducted in this manner. A prospective study says, hey, we're going to start now, and then we're going to follow up with these patients. We're going to give them some Lipitor. Then we're going to follow up on them in 2 years. We're going to follow up on another 2 years. So there's a lot of cancer medication out there right now, and when they tell you the side effects, there's no way they can tell you what the side effects are 10, 20, 30 years from now. They're going to have to do a prospective study, release the drug now because it could help a lot of people, but they're not going to know what happens down the road until 20 or 30 years from now, and once people have been taking them for 20 or 30 years. All of those studies are prospective. They go into the future. Slide. Great. Slide. So, okay, so this one's in red, but if you can see it, it says random sample, and contrast that with slide. Simple random sample. I'm coming in close so I can turn. We're going to go to the board. I'm going to go over the board over here. So most of you saw this discussion. I think one class didn't. It'll be good to go over it again. I just wanted to do a quick example of what random sample and what a simple random sample is. So we're going to go just a little bit more over there. There we go. So, okay. So pretend, once again, that we have a class of 20 people. So we got, I'm going to make a little diagram here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ta-da! There's our class. So it's got 20 people. Now I'm going to sample these people in 2 different ways. I'm going to say somebody comes through the door. So they come through the door's over there. They comes through and says, hey, I'm going to give $5 million away and I'm going to give $1 million to 5 different people. So I've got $5 million. I'm going to give $1 million to 5 of these people that are on the board. Everybody's stoked. They're all excited. Everyone in the classroom's like, ooh, the suspense is building. What's my chance of winning? So first, we're going to get to this later this semester about probability. The first question is, what is my probability of winning? So I'll give you a chance to think about it. I'm going to do a commercial while you're thinking about it. Again, the question is, what is the probability that you will win? You'll win $1 million. There's 5 being given away, 5 prizes, and there's 20 people. While you're thinking about it, this is brought to you by Girl Scout Samoa cookies. Delicious. Probably my favorite kind. Thin Mints is good too. Okay, so now we're back. The answer is 5 out of 20, which is 1/4. Which is 25%, if that got in there. Good. So each person has a 25% chance of being selected. That's if, of course, we did this kind of method. Let's say that we had a hat. That's my hat. I had a hat and I put 20 numbers in the hat. 1 through 20. And all I'm going to do is pull out 5 of those numbers. And again, if we pull out 5 numbers and there's 20 in the hat, you have 5 out of 20 equals 25% chance of being selected. So let me ask you, let me come up with a different method here. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. This other method also involves a hat. But instead, I'm only going to put the numbers 1 through 4. So we're going to have two different methods of selecting our 5 people that are going to win. One is this method where I have 1 through 20. Another method is I have the numbers 1 through 4. And I'm going to label these 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to label the rows 1, 2, 3, 4. And all I'm going to do is put my hand into the hat, pull out one number. If it's a 2, then everybody in row 2 wins. If it's a 4, then everybody in row 4 wins. That's how we're going to select these. So what I want to ask the question is, real quick, what is the probability of winning with this method? So you're in this class. I'm going to do that. Take a second to think, what's the probability that you're going to win with this method? And the answer is, you could pause or we'll just keep going. The answer is, you're in one of these rows. There's 4 rows. You're in exactly one of them. You also have a 25% chance of any individual winning. You have a 25% chance. Every single person has the same chance of winning. It's 25%. That makes this a random sample. That also makes this a random sample. That's a random sampling method. But what we want to contrast that with is with this idea of a simple random sample, otherwise known as an SRS. Simple random sample. I know you can barely see it, but it's in there. So a simple random sample is one in which not every single individual has the same chance of being selected, but every group of some size has the same chance of being selected. So our number here seems to be 5. There's 5 people who are going to win. So is this a simple random sample of size 5? If so, then every single grouping of 5, pick any 5 people up here, and they have to have the same chance of winning as any other 5. So let's check it out. Over here, in 1 through 20, we're just going to rely on our intuition here. Should this group of 5, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those guys, should they have any different chance of winning than these guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or pick any 5 up there. Under this method, any 5 should have the same chance of selecting any other 5. So, or the same chance of being selected into the sample as any other 5. That makes this an SRS, a simple random sample. Later on, we'll come back to this sample when we hit the probability, and we'll find out what that probability actually is. But for now, just rely on your intuition. Any 5 up here should have the same chance as any other 5. But let's look at this one. Under this method, does every single selection of 5 people have the same chance as any other selected one? Let's find out. What is the probability that those 5 will win? What's the probability that these specific 5 people in row 1 will win? Well, let's see. There's 4 rows. One of the rows is going to win, so 1 out of 4 is 25%. This group of 5 has a 25% chance of winning. And this group of 5 also has this group of 5 and that group of 5. They all have the same chance of winning. But let me ask you this question. How about this group of 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the probability that they will win? Notice that's 2 different groups, both of 5 people. Under this method, is it even possible for someone in row 2 and row 3 to win? They're in different rows. There's no way they can win at the same time. The only way you can win is if your single row is selected. So these 5 have a probability of 0 of being selected. These 5 have a 25% chance of being selected. That makes this not an SRS, not a simple random sample. So that's the difference. That's just a quick example between simple random sampling and just random sampling. So you can use that in that quiz 1 and in life in general, because you never know, it might come up one day. So I'm going to get us back on there. Let's try it. Slide. Okay, slide. Very good. Okay, so we keep talking about random sampling. That's good because it's very important. That's the one that we've talked about the most. One way that you can make a random sample is by getting a sampling frame. All that means is everyone in the population, in order to draw a number at random, you have to assign a number to everybody in the population. That means you have to have a list of everybody and be able to identify a list of all 1,000,000 people in the population. That's tough, but if you can do it, slide. It's called a sampling frame. A frame. That's just what it's called, a sampling frame. And what was next? Slide. Like we mentioned, it's often very expensive and time-consuming to get. And again, a lot of businesses have sampling. It's just like an email list. It takes a long time to accrue, a long time to make sure it's right. If somebody leaves the population, you have to update the list. There's a lot of maintenance to it. So when somebody has a sampling frame, you might pay a pretty penny for it. Slide. So moving on, we have systematic sampling. So we're actually getting into the sampling kinds now. So let's check it out. Slide. So in a systematic sample, you simply line up everybody in the population. You don't have to physically line them up, but you get them in a phone book or you get a list of them, and you want to make sure you randomly sample them. So in a systematic sample, all that means is that you're going to pick every kth person. You can pick K to be whatever number you want. In this example, K was 3. You're going to pick every third person. So you're going to go 1, 2, I'm going to select that guy into the study. 1, 2, I'm going to select that guy into the study. 1, 2, and you're going to go all the way down the line. The cool part about a systematic sample is you make sure that you've, like, let's say you're sampling from a phone book. A lot of times phone books are systematically sampled. That way you ensure that all your people in the sample aren't selected from the B's. If you do a systematic sample, that makes sure that you've spread them out from A to Z. And everyone has the same chance of being selected. It might be going through your head, how does this guy have a chance of being selected at all if he's going to get skipped every time? That's because in the beginning, you're going to flip a coin to see where your starting point is. So here my K was 3. I'm going to pick every third person. At the very beginning of the sample, you'd flip it. If you flipped a 1, you'd start with this guy. And you'd pick this guy, 1, 2, 3, 1. I'd pick that guy, 1, 2, 3, 1. I'd pick that guy. If you would have flipped a 2, you'd start with this guy. And you'd go here, 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 pick that guy, there, pick that guy. And if you were, but they picked a 3. They flipped a 3, so they picked the third guy, and then 1, 2, and they'll pick the next third guy, 1, 2, and they'll pick the next third guy. So that's how you can ensure that everyone has the same chance of being selected. You pick a number, then find a starting point, and then take every kth number. Slide. So we have the next one, but not yet. You can power through. Slide. And slide. And we had a lot to say there. So you can check this out. These are online. These are on Blackboard, but we'll just keep moving on. Just some questions for you. And slide. Okay, great. Perfect. This is a convenience sample. So convenience sampling, it's like the name says, it's very convenient. It's very simple, but you don't ever get a free lunch. In a convenience sample, it's of course not a random sample. Everybody in the population does not have the same chance of walking by your house. A really extreme example of that is if you live in a gated community. People can't get in unless they live there. So if you took a convenience sample from a gated community, you would only be limiting people to that lived in your particular neighborhood, which would be good if you're trying to find out information about your neighborhood, but if you're trying to use that as a random sample from the city, that's obviously not good data. That one that we did with the Where's Waldo picture, that was a convenience sample. We just picked people that were around the hat table. But of course, that could introduce bias into our study in various ways. So, slide. See what I have there. Yeah, systematically favoring certain outcomes over others. That's what you risk when you get a convenience study, but it's cheap and it doesn't take much time. Slide. Thank you. So, stratified sampling in 2 strata. So I've added a slide here from Friday. So slide. This is an example. So these are really important. Everything is important, but this is extremely important. Slide again. So this is if you would break up the population to do a stratified sample. You break up the population into strata. Each subject can only be in one strata. In this example, we broke them up into men, and women. And then from each strata, rewind and play that again. Each strata. That's pretty cool. Okay, so from each strata, you randomly sample from each strata. But once again, you're going from each strata. You're going to take a random sample from each one. The cool part about a stratified sample is, at the end, you actually can break it up into these little groups. At the end, not only can you make a statement about the population as a whole, making sure that you included men and women in the study. If you don't break them up into stratum, you run the risk of grabbing all women or grabbing all men, and then you don't truly have a representative sample from your population. So not only do you get a representative sample, but at the end, you could get the mean of the men and the mean of the women and have a nice way to break it out. Let's contrast that with more than 2 stratum. And this is kind of the dynamic of that. This one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stratum. So in 6 stratum, notice here's the population. Up there's the population. It's got everybody in it. You divide the population into the 6 stratum, and then you randomly sample from each stratum. So here, all the yellows, all the pinks, all the greens, all the orange, all the red, all the blue, and then notice only 3 of the blue, and only 2 of the red, and only 1 of the orange, and only 3 of the... Anyway, you can see that not all of them are in here. We're randomly sampling, but we're random sampling from each stratum. That's going to be really important when we look at the next sampling scheme. I guess that's all I want to say about that. Remember, each stratum, you're breaking up into stratum, sample from each stratum. Slide. So, real world marketing, great. I'd love for you guys, it's too small on here and we don't have a lot of time, so it'd be great and really helpful for you. I found a blog or like a chat room where business marketing people were actually talking about how they used stratified sampling in their jobs in real world. It's a really good kind of back and forth on just click on, if you just activate this slide and click on that, then it'll just bring it up in a web window. So it's pretty cool. It's actually, stratified sampling is one of the most used in the business world for the reasons that we just discussed. But let's see the next one. Is cluster sampling. Very similar to stratified, but as you're going to see, it's not exact. There's important differences. And the main one is you're not sampling from each cluster. Cluster and stratum are going to be about the same. It's just we call them something different because in cluster sampling, we don't sample from each cluster. We actually sample the cluster and then take everybody from it. So let's look at a diagram of that. Slide. So here it is. You have your whole population, maybe in districts. This one's in districts. So you'd have from 1 to 32, and then we'd sample, say, 3. This one was 3. So we'd randomly sample 3 of the clusters, say 5, 16, and 28. And then we'd go to those clusters, we'd go to those districts and take everybody from it. We'd sample, we'd do a census essentially, a census of that district. So we'd grab everybody in that district. That's the difference in cluster sampling. In stratified sampling, if we called these strata, we'd randomly sample from all 32. But from cluster sampling, we randomly sample the cluster and then get everybody from inside it. So an example of that, I went and looked at maybe Dallas zip codes, which is kind of interesting. Slide. Dang it. Slide one more time, maybe. Time out. Boop. Just kidding. Sorry. Ta-da! Okay. So this is one that you can go look at also. That's online. That's on the presentation. But this is, turns out there's 60, looks like 60 zip codes in the city of Dallas. And that's them all broken out. I think we're in 75206 maybe here at SMU, but there's a lot more obviously out there. Now, what a lot of people would do, just keep sliding for about 2 or 3. That's good. Thank you. So basically what we would do is break all these up, and then we'd randomly select a couple of these zip codes. If this was going to be cluster sampling and we called the zip code a cluster, we'd break them up, randomly sample a couple of these, let's say 3 from the 60, and then we would go to that cluster, to that zip code, and try to sample everybody from that cluster. Be a tough, you can imagine how tough it would be to get every single person from the cluster, but that's cluster sampling. So how would you randomly select from these zip codes? Well, you'd simply toss all the zip codes into a hat and then select 3 out. Slide. And so this is the same one. You can go online and find this one. It's got a lot of interesting descriptive statistics on each zip code. But so this slide, when you look at it, has all the zip codes on it. You would just simply, that's a unique identifier for each zip code. So you pull those out and then randomly sample everybody in it. You can check this slide out. We'll go to the next one. Slide. Okay, so here's one for you. So which one is it? Systematic, convenience, cluster, or stratified? Assume we want to conduct a study of life expectancy of farm animals at the King Ranch in Texas. We decided to split the animals into horses, cows, chickens, and pigs, and then take a random sample of 10 animals from each group. What type of sampling describes this technique? A, B, C, or D? And your answer is, slide. Oh, you can see that. Bing! D, of course. It is stratified sampling because of 10 animals from each, the magic word, from each group. That's stratified for you. Slide. Almost there. So then we can get as fancy as we want, and in the real world things get a little fancier. In the government especially, they do a lot of sampling. We're going to talk about the unemployment numbers. I think unemployment's down to 5.6%. We'll see that probably on the next slide. But the Bureau of Labor Statistics makes multi-stage sampling. And there's a couple more examples I won't go through on this slide. But if you want to go back to the PowerPoints and look at it, I have a few examples on those exactly of what's happening. But basically what happens is you may have a couple of stages. Multi-stages, first we're going to sample the counties. After you have a sample of counties from each county, you're going to, in this case they call them segments, they're going to divide it into maybe clusters of segments. And then they're going to sample a couple of those segments. From the segments they're going to select houses or households. And from the household they'll go and select just a couple of people from that household. So there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 stages from the population to the actual sample here. A lot of times this is done in school sampling too. They'll sample from Dallas, they'll sample a school district, then they'll sample a couple of high schools from that district, then they'll sample a couple of classrooms from that high school, and then they'll sample students from the classroom. And the complex part of multi-stage sampling too is they may do a stratified sample at stage 1, they may do a systematic sample from stage 2, they may do another systematic sample from stage 3, and they may just do another stratified or a cluster sample from stage 4. You can mix and match these together, and if you become a statistician, which I'd love for you to become, that's some of the stuff you'll study, is how to find standard errors and how to find just how accurate your measurements are based on what kind of sampling method you had. Slide. This one's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I love talking about this stuff. At the beginning of last semester, slide, or just one slide, perfect, and you can look at this up online. I know you probably can't read this. This is what it looked like at the beginning of last semester. Notice that it stopped in July because our class started in August. It was 6.2. The unemployment rate was 6.2. This is where we are now. We're in December. I just pulled this one off the line. And we're down to, yes, 5.6. You can see it went every month. We looked at these again throughout the semester. 6.2, 6.1, 5.9, 5.7, went back up, ticked up, 5.8, but now we're back down to 5.6. We can look at that again, slide. And this one, that's what it looked like last semester, slide. And that's what it looks like this semester, down to 5.6. Interesting, though, is that those are pretty good numbers. You can look at what they were back in 2005. Those were good years, and it was only at 5.3. It came down in 2007 to about 4.7. Now we're at 5.6, but the president's approval rating is still very low. So keep track of that news. There's lots of things that obviously go into making a good president. Slide. I'm gonna let you guys read this one. This is where that data comes from. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has the current population survey, and if you read this, but you can't see it from here, it tells you about the multi-stages of the current population study. And they use cluster sampling and a systematic sample. It says systematic over here. And then they've got stratified here. They actually have 3 of the ones we just talked about. And that's how the real numbers that you hear on the news or on the radio every day come about. Slide. Oh, so methods of sampling. Slide, 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 slide. So we have random, systematic, convenience, stratified, and cluster. We went through all of those. Slide. And a recap. We did, recap it. I forgot the order that I did these in. Types of experiments, we have observational, slide, and experiment, slide, or cross-sectional, retrospective, prospective. And then we have types of sampling. We have convenience, systematic, stratified, and cluster. Now, looking up here at these types of studies, I left off the experiment up here, so I need to add that for next time. Obviously, we covered observational and experiment, and those are the types of studies we could have. Slide, I think that's it. That's it. So thanks for watching this. We should be ready to rock on Monday. Everybody's caught up. You'll have quiz 1 and quiz 2, or I'm sorry, preliminary quiz and quiz 1 due on Monday, and we'll give you quiz 2 to complete on Wednesday. You'll be learning a lot of Excel this week. That's what we'll have a lab on Friday. And that's it. It's going to be really nice outside tomorrow, so I'll see you outside or enjoy it on your own. Whammo. See you in class.